Well, good afternoon, everybody. I am Jeff Baughman. I am the Consumer Outreach and Disaster Response Program Manager with the Office of the Insurance Commissioner here in the state of Washington. And welcome to our first in the series of claims workshops. We are going to be putting on an entire series of these. So we would expect that if you learn something at one, you might learn something at the next one. So feel free to come back anytime those are going. David, you want to go ahead and you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name's David Forte. I'm the Senior Policy Advisor for Property and Casualty Insurance at the Office of the Insurance Commissioner. Before being a state employee with the Commissioner, I was an adjuster. I was a public insurance adjuster representing folks just like you that had losses and had to negotiate their claim with their company. The goal of our claims workshop is to empower you, to give you the tools that you need to understand what's happening in your claim today, but also a little forward thinking about things that you should be aware of for next month or the month after that. So thanks for attending.
David, you want to go to the next slide? And as you can see, we have some objectives for what we intend to have you take away from today. This is just an informational gathering. Anything you think you might need an attorney's consent or advice on, please feel free to do that and consult with them as you need. And here are the objectives. All right, you're gonna learn about how to submit your claim to recover all that you are owed under the policy, and that is our sincerest hope that you get everything you're entitled to in the contract. What you should be doing this month and in subsequent months, explore coverages and concepts to empower your understanding and to protect yourself, what to do and what not to do. We mentioned that there's going to be a whole series of these throughout the upcoming year. Here is a schedule of those upcoming events. So all right here in the same location. So take note of where those are and make sure you tell your neighbors and come back.
All right, thank you, Jeff. So being the first workshop, let's start from the beginning. If you haven't already, of course, you want to notify your insurance company that you've had a loss and invite them to come inspect the damage. The insurance companies have the contractual right to investigate the loss, so you want to be able to make it available for them. It's really important for you right now to think about maintaining a journal, a claim journal. A lot of stuff is coming at you fast. You want to be able to write everything down, and I kind of mean everything. Your interactions with the city, with the county, with solicitors, with adjusters, with the insurance company, contractors. It is easily forgettable 3 months from now and 6 months from now, and you want to be able that you have a log over it. Of course, keep receipts and invoices. You may want to think about, for those that have already received advances, opening up a new account. You may not want to commingle your personal funds with your insurance funds. It may help you down the road to track things. An important one, you don't need to sign anything right now. Okay? You have time. You just want to get your feet underneath you, understand your policy, understand your communications with your insurance company and listening to them. And then at some point you may need help, and you will have to sign at some point contracts with mitigation folks, with contractors to rebuild your house, and maybe with other people. But you don't need to right now. Don't feel that pressure. So there's all sorts of people that you're going to be interacting with over the life of the claim. Adjusters. So what adjusters do is they take the facts of your loss and apply it to the policy language that you have. So there are staff adjusters. They work for insurance companies. So they're going to be located likely not in Spokane. Okay? That doesn't mean that they may not send somebody out to work with you on your site. That likely would be what's called an independent adjuster. They're independent in the sense that they are not employed directly by the insurance company, but interest is the insurance company's interest. And then you have what's public insurance adjusters. These represent your financial interest in the state of Washington, and you have to pay them. So it's a significant portion of your claim. If some folks may need a public adjuster, and they should research that and make that choice, you don't need one today. That's my advice. So you're going to be dealing with all sorts of different contractors, mitigation contractors and board ups. If you have a partial loss, you're dealing with them right now. And if you have a complete loss, you're going to be dealing with some type of debris removal coming up, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit. Restoration contractors, these are folks that have unique experiences taking a damaged home and bringing it back to the rebuilt state. They are very knowledgeable about working with insurance companies, often working on the same software systems, so they communicate very well with each other. So mitigation contractors and restoration contractors are very much a part of the insurance landscape. But you may want to work with a general contractor. A general contractor likely will not have the same experience working with insurance companies. He may have his own way that he provides estimating of how much the value of your house is. They may not communicate well. That doesn't mean you can't overcome that. It's just be aware of that. And then subcontractors, these are folks that often work for the other contractors. They just provide a single trade. If you have partial damage, you may need an engineer, a structural engineer, to give you advice on how to do the repairs. For folks that have total damage, you may need to talk about an architect at some point. And then for anyone that is concerned about smoke damage, you may need to reach out to an industrial hygienist. Now, the insurance company also have entities that provide them services, okay? These are third-party vendors. These people are not licensed to adjust your loss. You don't need to engage in conversations about your insurance policy with them. You can inform them and you can talk to them if you want, but it's your insurance company that's providing you the coverage, not these folks. So you may find all sorts of people that will come, and you'll see communication going back and forth that you're going to want to log around the value of your home. There could be third-party folks that will provide an opinion about how much it takes to reconstruct your home, personal property valuations, cleaners, temporary housing locators. These are all things that we're going to talk about in a little bit too, but they're going to come across your life here in the next 2 years. Then we've got the government, FEMA, Federal Individual Assistance. We don't know today if that's going to be available. If it becomes available, they will likely stand up, like how we had the disaster assistance centers. They will stand up disaster recovery centers with FEMA on site. They'll take your information to see if you're eligible. Small Business Administration, again, we don't know if the federal government is going to grant this to the state yet, but if the Individual Assistance Program, there is an opportunity. The Small Business Administration has very low interest loans for rebuilds if needed. And then the state, it has an individual assistance, and we don't know if that's available yet. Of course, you're going to be dealing with building officials and then permitting offices. So here's just some common sense communication advice that we recommend as you consider all of your communications to all the people that you have to deal with. Use a neutral tone. Make sure that what you're asking is clear and put everything in writing. And in my experience, the claims process is long, it's complicated, and it's not your job. And so you've got your whole life going on around you. And now you're expected to deal with this catastrophe on top of it. So you're going to be emotional, you're going to be frustrated, you're going to be mad, you're going to feel alone. Make sure when you send an email that maybe you've stepped away from it and come back to it and you've grounded yourself and you're back on track. So neutral tone, don't cuss out anybody on an email. You never know where that email is going to be ending up down the road. Anytime you have a verbal communication, so you may, a contractor may come out, an adjuster may come out, you may be on a phone with your adjuster and they say something to you, but it's not in writing. Well, you've got your log and you're taking notes. Strongly recommended that you resend an email back to them memorializing the conversation. Hey, Dan, thanks for the call. I really appreciate talking about additional living expenses. You said this. If I have anything wrong, please correct me. So you want to make a log of that. Really important, if an insurance adjuster, remember your insurance company is the only one that can adjust your claim. They're the only ones that have access to the money that's writing the checks. If the insurance adjuster gives you a statement or a condition that, that doesn't sound right, what does that mean? So you want to ask them right away, well, can you show me the policy language that you're making that statement from? So here's some red flags to be aware of. If someone's coming on to you a little strong, again, you don't have to make pressured choices today. You have time to think, time to get your feet underneath you, get your consultations in. You don't need to sign anything right now. There's something out there in our world, unfortunately, it's called the post-loss assignment of benefits. You're going to see these in mitigation contracts or construction contracts. They look like a direct payment authorization clause, which are fine. It'll say something, a direct authorization clause will say something like, we authorize the insurance company to make direct payment to this contractor. Super helpful because then you don't have to do it. That's different than what this is. A post-loss assignment of benefits is when you give all of your insurance coverage and protections to the contractor. You're in effect no longer the first party claimant. You have been removed from that. So you want to be really careful when you read your repair contracts that they don't assign the policy and the benefits of the policy away from you. You want to maintain control of that. It's your policy. So misinformation on policy benefits. It can happen by mistake. I mean, you're gonna be talking to adjusters that maybe are not aware with Washington law or your policy. But if something doesn't seem right, you want to make sure that they're referencing policy language. Lowball valuations. So these are hard to fix. These are hard to correct. I want to encourage you to take ownership of your claim. Don't be passive. Don't wait for somebody to tell you how much your claim is worth. You're responsible for putting it together. So we're here to help you. We're going to be here each month to help you. But just put that in the back of your mind right now is as insurance companies or their vendors come out and give you something that's not accurate, a good way to think of it is this. Say that you have a glass of water, okay? The glass of water is filled up all the way to the top. That's your claim, and you get every single drop of it, okay? And you need to make sure that you're being accurate and complete. Sometimes people are not very complete in their evaluations of their claim, so they'll forget something. If it's about the structure, be sure to include it. If it's something about personal property, which we're going to be talking about later, personal property, be accurate and be complete. Lack of documentation, again, take ownership of your claim, provide, find, and get great documentation. You don't have to do it today, but as we're going to be thinking about over the next couple weeks and months, what documentation do I need to support my claim? If it's a partial loss, meaning you have some damage, you're going to need to figure out pretty quick how much it takes to clean it up and then how much it takes to rebuild. And then if you have a contractor that's willing to do it, probably the most important thing. If you have a completely destroyed property, can you show the value of that property exceeded your policy limits? And then we'll talk about down the road the ways that you can go above your policy limits for certain coverages. Communication delays. Insurance companies, they are required to respond to you in 10 working days for a pertinent question that needs a response. They don't always do that. Most of the time they do, but not always. You have your log. You need to keep track of that, and you need to be the ownership of it. If you didn't get a reply back in 12, 14 days, send it again. Make another note. Swapping of adjusters. This is kind of a new thing that's been happening a lot over the last 3 years, 4 years. You may have already had adjusters swap on your claim. It's very likely you initially got a catastrophe adjuster, and then at some point the company will reissue a new adjuster to you. Sometimes these companies, they have a team of adjusters that all work in the same unit, and they may come and you may see different names. You just need to be sure that your adjuster knows your claim. And so you just need to be an advocate for yourself there. And Jeff, you've had some experience in December so we were also on site for the flooding in Northwest Washington over the winter, and you experienced some things to be aware of.
Yeah, this time when the evacuation has just been lifted, everybody's getting back in, you're gonna have a lot of cleanup people move into the area. You wanna make sure who you're working with. Verify everything, sign nothing. The scam we saw during the flooding was that mitigation people would come in and say, I can get you on my list. I have a very short list, and to do so, you need to give me X amount of dollars today to get on the list. And they were in the wind as soon as they got the check. Those went to the Attorney General, obviously, but it's going to take you a while to get your money collected back. Verify everybody you're working with.
Absolutely.
All right, one of the key things that my program attempts to do for the consumers in this state is to make sure you understand your insurance contract. Most people know a couple of things about their policy. I know I have a policy typically with this company, and I know who my agent is. All that stuff in the pages in between, probably not so much down in the detail. So we attempt to teach you a little bit about the insurance contract. Every insurance contract is going to have 4 major parts. I don't care if you're talking homeowners, auto, life, health, it's all the same. 4 major parts of a contract are the acronym DICE, D-I-C-E. The D is for declarations. You can see right on the slide what this includes. The identity and address of you, the named insured, the policy term or period, the amount of insurance or limits of liability, your premium, and any applicable deductibles. It is your policy at a snapshot, all on one page. All you got to do is look at it. I can tell what my coverage limits are. I can tell where the company is located. I can tell my name and or my wife's name as well are on the policy. So who can actually take part in effectuating that contract? The I is the insuring clause, also known as the agreement. You see, this describes what the covered perils are. Perils are your losses. Fire, lightning, wind, hail. You can start going down through. It'll tell you exactly what perils are covered on the policy. You can see the nature of the coverage, whether it's actual cash value, replacement cost, and make some reference between the agreement between you and the insurance company. Go ahead, David. Every contract of any type is always going to have conditions. There are conditions for both parties to the contract. The insurance company has to do this. You have to do this. A great example is you have to pay your premium. kind of standard. If you don't, they cancel your contract. If you pay your premium, they have to live up to what's in the contract. So the conditions section spells all of that out, item by item, what they have to do and what you have to do. And of course, the E is exclusions. They are going to tell you specifically what is not covered in your policy. Some great examples of exclusions are gradual wear and tear. You know, when your shingles wear out after 15 years, but there's no wind or hail loss, do they fix your roof? No, it wore out. That's your responsibility to fix. So they're going to tell you in the contract itself what is not covered on your policy.
Thank you, Jeff. It's really important to know each policy is different, and you need to really get a copy of it. And when you ask for your copy, so the policy is the rule book. If you don't have your policy, you don't know the rules. And so you need to ask your company, and maybe you can go online and download a copy, but I would prefer you ask them to make them send you what your policy is. And be sure to ask for that declaration page and endorsements for the policy that's in effect at your time of loss. It'll be important to get that. And we're going to go over that. If you do get it, we're going to go over what all of that means in there. So here's a sample of what a dec page, a declaration page will look like. You're going to want this. You're going to probably want to go log into your insurance website, and you can probably download your dec page. Your dec page may look different, but it'll have all of these components on it somewhere, maybe in a different order. Okay, you're going to see your premium, you're going to see any discounts you have. Important to know what your policy period is and your policy number. You're going to want that. And then you're going to get some details of how the insurance company has written down what your home is. You're going to want to check to make sure if that's correct or not. Okay, now we're getting to the important stuff for your claim. You're going to have, if you have a mortgage, you're going to have your lender listed on your dec page. And we'll talk a little bit more why that's important. But you're also going to have your coverage details. So your policy is going to cover many things, but they typically fall under 4 buckets. One is your structure, your dwelling coverage. Some companies will have outbuildings as a separate coverage. Some include it, so you just need to check your policy to see how your insurer separates or doesn't separate out the main dwelling versus outbuildings. You're going to have a personal property coverage. And that's really important to wrap your head around. What type of coverage do you have? Some policies only provide what's called actual cash value. We're going to talk about what that means in just a moment. Some policies allow for replacement cost. We're going to talk about that in just a second too. What I want you to be aware of here is you need to know what your coverage is. And then something else we're going to talk about is additional living expenses. And right now, this is probably the most important thing, whether you have a partial loss or a full loss. You need to fully understand what your additional living expense coverage is and what's going to be available to you. It will also give you other things like, do you have building code endorsements? This is for code upgrades as you rebuild. It'll tell you, also very important, do you have extended replacement cost benefits or an inflation guard, which can be very beneficial for your recovery. Jeff mentioned it's a contract and you have responsibilities too. If you break these, you can be denied coverage. You are breaching the contract. So it's really important that you're aware of what your responsibilities are. You've probably already done, the most important one is notify the company of your loss. The company has the ability to investigate, has the contractual right to investigate, so you need to notify them as soon as it's safe to do so. The other one puts people in a dilemma, and we're going to be in a dilemma because of the size of this event. You have a duty to protect your property from further damage. What does that mean? What's reasonable if you can't even go to your house, if you can't even get back on your lost site? Are you able to find a mitigation contractor? That's what they do. They shield the home from extra damage. They kind of put it in a status bubble at that moment. Are there even any available? It's really important to be communicating with your insurer to know if they know the efforts that you're doing to fulfill your duties. And is there any assistance they can provide you to fulfill that duty? And of course, we're writing it in our log because we want to know what they say in our log. At some point, you're going to have to provide a list of damaged personal property. Some states have it by law that the insurance company must provide you 75% of your coverage if you have a total loss in a wildfire event. We don't have that law in Washington. So maybe your insurance company, because they've worked so much in Oregon and California who have those laws, have made that offer to you, okay? Now, that's an offer. If you wanted to seek more recovery, you're gonna have to fulfill your duty to provide a list of damaged personal property. We're gonna be back and we're gonna talk more about that over the months. That's a big deal. That's a lot. Don't feel the pressure that you need to do it today. Now, it's really important that you cooperate, reasonably cooperate with the insurer. You know, you don't have to go change completely everything out of your day if you have a doctor's appointment or if you have to work. I mean, it needs to be reasonable. But if they're going to be, if they ask to see your property, you should make it available to them. I mean, there should really be no good reason for them not to be able to access your property. You have to be comfortable with the documents that they request. Some of them are reasonable. If it's unreasonable, start asking questions. Why do you need this? Why do you need that? Pretty rare these days, but under your contract, you need to sit for an examination under oath. That's your duty under the contract. If that happens, you need to contact an attorney at that point. I do not advise going under an examination under oath without legal representation. A proof of loss form, this is kind of an antiquated document. Most insurers do not provide it to you, but if they ask and they provide you the form, you should sit with an insurance professional to understand how to go through it. This becomes a legal document of what your total claim is. It'll list if you have any liens on your property, the occupancy, the total amount that you're claiming. Okay, so we're 2 weeks post-loss. What are some things that really should be on the top of your mind right now? And one is, probably most important, is to be setting up stability for success. It's going to take a long time. Even the folks that have partial losses due to supply and demand of contractors and construction and everything, it's going to take a while. I think if you have any friends down in Medical Lake, or if you tracked their recovery from the 2023 fires, I don't think it's going to be quicker for you. I think you need to prepare. And that preparation is different for each family. We hope to empower you so you know what's going to go on with your claim. But I can share with you my experience being involved in hundreds of fire losses. The thing that it becomes most stressful for families is you're not in control anymore. You don't have control of your home, when it's going to be repaired, when you're going to be able to get back inside it. And that's very difficult for many families. Prepare yourself. If you go to church, you can have counseling, whatever it's going to take for you to go through this very long process to get to the end where you're back in your home and you're back in control. And in doing so, understand your resources. We're going to have a lot of resources are here right now, right? Take advantage of them, all of them. And then as they start to fade away, there's going to be long-term recovery groups that stand up. These are your fellow citizens. They're there to help you. They're tremendous resources. We're going to be here. We're going to share our contact information for you. There's going to be other folks in your community that are going to be able to provide assistance. What's really important is when you go back to your home, you be safe. You be safe. If it's a partial loss, you know, don't get on that roof. You know, you may need some professional help. Take lots of pictures whenever you go to your home for the first time or the next time. You can't take enough pictures, okay? If it's a total loss, I strongly recommend protective clothing, gloves, eyewear. I've personally got silicate in my eyes from visiting lost sites. Wear a mask, make sure it's safe. Make sure you're aware of your utilities. Are they all shut off? Dangerous locations. So then we also want to talk about, and we're going to go through each of these, how is your claim actually going to get paid? Okay, now that you have a claim, what to expect, debris removal, mortgagee clause, and additional living expense. So really quick, we're going to talk all about this in the months ahead, but just for a very top overview, how insurers pay your claim. There's a couple terms that you need to know. If you walk outside, there's a handout that has all the definitions, so you don't have to write all this down. There's something out there for you. Actual cash value, ACV, you'll see it, is the first check you're going to get. And this is a depreciated amount. There's certain rules in your rule book, which is the insurance policy, that will define how that's calculated. The most common one is they take the replacement cost value and then they depreciate it from wear, tear, obsolescence, useful life. And then you'll get a check for actual cash value. This depreciation, how it's calculated, isn't always very clear, but there will be some words under the definition of ACV in your policy that will allow you to kind of think about it. You know, depreciation is for tangible items that lose their value over time. So there's some things in the state that can't be depreciated. Cost of labor, you can't depreciate labor in Washington state. But you will find some things you're going to find them incredibly depreciated, like electrical items, TVs and appliances and things like that. So replacement cost is also defined in your policy. You know, it's usually defined as the cost to replace or repair the damaged item with new and like material. And again, really important, check your policy. You may have extended cost coverage. That means you get 25% over your policy limits, or you have inflation guard, an extra 10% coverage, but there's triggers that you have to meet, and we're going to talk about those over the coming months. So here's the way that it works. You have an evaluation of your loss. Somehow, and I would encourage you to determine what your loss is, but the insurance company will also determine it themselves. They're going to pay on their determinations. Now, you have the ability to challenge that through providing documentation. Evaluation of the loss is going to be made. The insurance company is going to cut a check. ACV is paid. They're going to withhold that depreciation. Now, for you to recover that depreciation, you have to repair or replace the damaged item. So after the home is repaired, if it's a partial loss, or if you have contents coverage, that's replacement cost, you've purchased the item back. Then you show proof of that repaired or replaced damaged item, and then the insurance company will cut the withheld depreciation check back to you. So debris removal, this is unknown at this time as we sit here today. I don't know if folks that have partial losses have received clearance to begin to get on site and to deal with that or not. I know for the other folks, there's probably some coordinating effects between the federals, the state, and the local governments. My best recommendation is check with local government, whether it's the city or the county for you, to determine what is your access, what are they directing you to do for debris removal. Your policy covers it. It has the ability to pay for debris removal. And there are ways to have, depending on your policy, to have additional coverage over your policy limit for that debris removal, but it's really expensive. And if there are ways that you can be reimbursed or enter into programs, that leaves more money for you to actually rebuild your loss. So this is something where right now we don't have answers for you, but just be active, be aware, figure out what the city and the county want us to do with the debris. Mortgagee clause. If you have a lender named, if you have a mortgage and a lender, they're going to be on your insurance policy. The mortgagee clause protects the interest of your lender, meaning your lender's name is going to be on your structure check. And this is really important. These where a lot of claims get messed up and delayed is because no one realizes that until you get the check and you go, why is Bank of America on here? And you don't know what to do. So recommendation is if you have a lender, if they're named on your policy, if you have over $10,000 in what you think might be damage, you need to call them and understand what the process is. Typically what happens, the lender takes your check, you sign it over to them, they hold on to that amount. Then when you get a contractor waiting to do the repair work, they'll kick out a third right at the start. And then halfway through the repairs, they'll kick out another third. And then at the end of repairs, they'll close it out. All of them usually have an inspection by the bank to make sure that it's at that spot. The sooner you can arrange the process with the lender, more likely they're going to be timely in releasing those funds. And that's very difficult for your contractor. Now, restoration contractors, they already know this. But if you're going to be working with a general contractor, that's not typical for them to wait for a bank to release funds from an escrow. So that needs to be a conversation with them. Again, the very most important thing I want you to understand from today, additional living expenses. How it works is this is not all the costs that you have had since your home is unlivable. That's not what it covers. It covers the additional, the extras. So how does that work? Being out of your home, have you had to board a pet? Okay, that's an additional one. Of course, if you're in emergency housing right now, it's paying for a hotel shelter or something like that. We really need to think, and I'm gonna challenge you to think about creative ways, because is your additional living expense gonna last for the time of the complete rebuild? And only you are gonna be able to tell that by getting your declaration page and looking at it and writing a budget out. Your coverage allows you to have the exact same accommodations as what your house is. Your house is 5 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, fenced yard for your dog. Your policy grants you all of that for your temp housing, but is that going to be good for your budget? It may not be. So you want to think about it. So some of the other things, as you're in your temp housing, are you closer to work or are you farther away from work? That extra mileage is recoverable. So think about it. We're here to answer questions. If you have a question like, do you think this is recoverable? Go ahead and let us know. But again, plan ahead. Plan ahead. You may need to be creative around. You don't.
Can I just grab my microphone?
Absolutely.
I'm so sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead. Do you need an RV on your lot? Is that cheaper than staying in housing? Is the Spokane rental market going to get inundated and the prices are going to get increased? Do you have to stay in Spokane? You don't have to under your policy. If you can find temporary housing somewhere else that you're comfortable with, you can stay there. Most important is to communicate and work with your company, with your insurer on what they're going to easily allow for. But plan ahead, because if you're going to take 2 years to rebuild, I don't want you to run out of money, because you're still responsible for your mortgage payment. And without this coverage, you're going to be responsible for your temp housing rental. And so most importantly, we got to plan, make sure that you have enough funds. So down the road, you don't got to think about this now, but I'm just going to plant some seeds. If your home's been completely destroyed, you actually have some options. And there's some strategies involved to accomplish all of those. Do you rebuild the home just as it was before the loss? Do you want to change your home? Maybe it's a good chance to do wildfire mitigation with it, or to change the footprint. You can do that. There's strategies to do that. Do you want to build somewhere else? Like, I'm done. And it's a lot easier if you don't have a lender, but there are strategies to make that work. And then, are you going to buy a home? Already built home. So these are options that we're going to talk about down the road. For folks that are partially damaged, when do you get access to it? Who are you going to find to do the mitigation? So the mitigation is where they stop the current situation from your home possibly being further damaged. Is that a tarp on your roof so it doesn't rain get in there? It could be. Could it be boarding up windows so vandals and looters don't get inside very easily? It's all of these things to protect your home from further damage, because remember, you have a responsibility to do that. So that's what you should be thinking about. If you haven't already, you should be thinking about, if you're partially damaged, what is this going to look like? And again, you work with your insurance company. One of the most dangerous delays and problems that happens at the very beginning of the claim is when a mitigation contractor comes in and does work and the insurance company doesn't know about it or didn't approve it. Okay, now you're stuck in the middle, because you're going to you signed a contract with that mitigation contractor to do work. They've done the work. They're going to bill you for the work. But if the insurance company doesn't agree with that scope, you're stuck in the middle. So we have to have really good communication here between the mitigation contractor and the insurance company, so you're not paying out of pocket for something. And then create a personal property list. So this is a lot. This is overwhelming, and you don't have to do it today. And I want to let you know that your personal property list, if you can be more complete and more accurate with your personal property list, you're going to recover more funds. And some people that have found themselves underinsured with their coverage limits have needed to do their personal property coverage to supplement their rebuild. We can do that because we can go and we can rebuild our beds and our stuff and rebuy those later in life, but it's really hard unless you're going to get a no interest or a 0 interest, a 2% interest loan. You may want to think about that. The more accurate and the more complete you can be in your personal property list, the more that you're going to recover. But it's a lot. It's a lot. And I just want to say today, what you may want to do is write down in every room that was damaged, is there a dresser? Is there a desk? Is there a closet? Is there something that held things? And we'll go back over time and go in, and in your mind's eye, you're going to go back into each of those units and you're going to figure out what was in there. But you don't got to do it today. But it's a good idea just to get started. Maybe just make a scope list. If you can do it on Excel, that's great. But if you have to do it on pad and paper, okay. But if you were to start an Excel sheet, you know the little tabs on the bottom? I would make a room, each of those tabs, and then each tab you would have furniture and then your list of storage areas in there. And we're going to come up with all sorts of examples and strategies to recover from that going forward. But it's a lot, and it's okay that it's a lot, and we're going to do it together over the next 6 months. Finally, we were talking about additional resources. United Policyholders is a nonprofit out of California. They have a specific page set up to help wildfire survivors here. They've been through this a lot because they're from California. And they have tremendous sample letters to your insurer on there. They probably have that sample inventory list for your personal property already on there. We're going to invite them up. They're going to be here next time we hold this, September 14th. And they're going to be here and they're going to be able to share their experiences from the 60,000 homes that have been lost in California over the last 8 years. So they have lots of experience.
I want to take a few minutes of your time this afternoon to tell you about my program, newly created last July. Our new commissioner, Patty Cooterer, had a great foresight to create this program, Consumer Outreach and Disaster Response. There's two sides to it. The consumer outreach is really pre-disaster. We want to get out into the communities that have been affected by, by disaster, whether that's flood, whether that's fire, whether that's earthquake, whatever, and teach them about what's in their policy, what's covered, what's not, and how to get it covered. The second part of that is actually when you have a disaster just like this. When wildfire hits Spokane, we're here. We're here to help you with your claim, with questions you have on your policies, and to help you in your conversations with the insurance carrier. So again, as these centers are opened throughout Spokane over the next year or so, I don't know how long they're going to go. There was one down at Shadle Park High School for about 7, 8, 9 days. Yeah, we were there. We were there the entire time. So we will be there as those centers open to help you with your questions, because the insurance company may or may not tell you everything. They may or may not tell you clearly. So we're here to help you decipher it and help you make sure you get the benefits you're entitled to under your contract. There's an 800 number that's available to you Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, which property casualty policy experts are waiting to take your call to help you with your questions. And if need be, if the insurance company's not quite following the rules of the contract, we're there to advocate on your behalf. So we'll encourage you to file a complaint if it gets to that. That's not today. But down the road, if things look a little questionable, we'll talk to you about filing a complaint, and then we'll go to the insurance carrier on your behalf. It's a great QR code. It's got some support links. We created a disaster toolkit that's available for you to pick up. It's got resources. I think they're out on the table. Perfect. And it includes a policy log for you to get you started. I mean, it may not cover you for the next 2 years, but it'll give you an idea of how to start that out. The top 10 things to ask your insurance company. It's always a good place to start. David mentioned particularly when people move into the area after a disaster, fraud. How you avoid fraudulent activity, things to look for, key things, all in a document for yours to take. So the QR code will get you those resources. They're also on the table outside. And most of all, stay informed. This is a QR code to get you signed up for anything that's changing, new legislative updates, resources, and more. So scan that, it'll get you to a place to sign up. When we change something, you'll know.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. And we just like to open it up for general Q&A. If you have something that you think the rest of the group or the recorded audience wants to hear about, we're here to answer those questions. And then once we're done with the open Q&A, we're also going to be here to meet with you individually if you need to understand your individual questions. So is there any open questions right now?
I will just make a quick clarification that the top 10 things ask your insurer and that line-by-line checklist did not print. The all the other documents are on the table and that should more than welcome to pick from. The QR code we got in the previous slide over, has all those electronic documents that should be printed out and fill out. But yes, please contact us at any time if there's documentation you need or support that you need.
Thank you, Lauren.
If you'll let me know an email address, when I get back to the office tomorrow, I will send you a toolkit or I will email you the documents.
Yes, sir.
Is there a place where we can get these?
Yes, this is recorded, and we're going to be providing this on our webpage in the next day or two, and there'll be access to the slide deck. Yep.
It was completely destroyed.
Yep.
We own the property, we found out, we still do. Are we gonna be subject to that property tax for the next, maybe, something like that?
We were able to pay up our taxes.
So you want to reach out to your tax assessor to determine what programs they have. If you don't have a home on it, you may only pay the land portion of it, not the improvements part of it. One thing to think about is that slide that said, since you own your property, you can go somewhere else. The insurance doesn't pay for land. It only pays for the improvement. So going forward, if you're looking, hey, maybe we'll buy another house, it's not going to cover the land portion of it.
How hard do you think it's gonna be when we do get someone to start cleaning up?
I can only guess. It's going to be your city and your county is going to have the most up-to-date information as they're working it out between them and the state and the feds. I don't know. And I don't know if it's going to be different for where we have entire neighborhoods that have had such devastating total loss impacts versus some properties that may just have some roof damage. And okay, can we get in there and start cleaning that up? We just don't know right now.
Yeah, they're holding quite a bit back for depreciation. Their only stipulation was us to clean up that site and then we'll release those funds.
I mean, we're not gonna jump into everything, but we just want to understand.
Yeah. I can hope that it would be less than a week or it may be 3 months. Just don't know. It'd be really interesting. And I don't know off the top of my head what happened in Medical Lake, but that was a smaller version of this, and this is a much larger version. Might be good to maybe next month we'll come back with some answers about what they experienced. And then we'll try to reach out to the city and the county to understand what's going on. Hopefully September 14th, we'll have an update.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
What did you say again about somebody wanting to buy a house that's already built? So the county says the land's worth 120 and the house is worth 4. You'll pay for the 400,000. They gotta pay for the 120.
Yeah, so there's some strategies there, but usually insurers don't cover land, even your own valuation of your land. It's only going to cover for the actual structure piece.
Okay, then when you were talking about all your stuff inside.
Yeah.
I mean, you could have $150,000 worth of stuff inside.
Sure can.
Can you take that money and buy the land?
You can.
Okay.
You would be able to. So here's the thing though with that. Remember how we talked about ACV and replacement cost? So if your policy has replacement cost on your contents, if you were to do that, you wouldn't get that withheld depreciation. That's why it's so critical when we make your personal property list to be accurate and complete. You want to capture everything.
We have a lot of pictures that we took, and that will help out.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of
Pictures are great.
Before it happened.
Yeah.
We try to get everything and get a video,
Yeah.
so we'll still be able to write this down too.
And it should help your memory for drawers
Yeah,
and
because there's
stuff.
things we went, oh my God.
I mean, did you have a garage full of tools and nuts and bolts and
We
right?
just
I mean,
retired people.
that's not something that you just discard. It's like, oh, that was junk. No, that has value. It's tedious to try to figure all that out, but it adds up in the end.
Yeah.
Be as complete as you can. You think about it as in detail as you can. Document as much as you can. If you think of something later you forgot, you can add it.
Down.
Yep. Okay. Well,
appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And we're going to stop the recording, and we're just going to be available if you have any individual questions for you. And we'll be here for another hour and a half. Thank you.